Man, Android, and Machine. Philip K. Dick, 1975. Within the universe there exist fierce cold things, which I have given the name machines to. Their behavior frightens me, especially if it imitates human behavior so well that I get the uncomfortable sense that these things are trying to pass themselves off as humans but are not. I call them androids, which is my own way of using that word. By android I do not mean a sincere attempt to create in the laboratory a human being, as we saw in the excellent TV film The Questa Tapes. I mean a thing somehow generated to deceive us in a cruel way, to cause us to think it to be one of ourselves. Made in a laboratory, that aspect is not meaningful to me. The entire universe is one vast laboratory, and out of it come sly and cruel entities which smile as they reach out to shake hands. But their handshake is the grip of death, and their smile has the coldness of the grave. These creatures are among us, although morphologically they do not differ from us. We must not posit a difference of essence, but a difference of behavior. In my science fiction I write about them constantly. Sometimes they themselves do not know they are androids. Like Rachel Rosen, they can be pretty but somehow lack something. Or, like Preen We Can Build You, they can be absolutely born of a human womb design androids. The Abraham Lincoln one in that book, and themselves be without warmth. They then fall within the clinical entity schizoid, which means lacking proper feeling. I am sure we mean the same thing here, with the emphasis on the word thing. A human being without the proper empathy or feeling is the same as an android built so as to lack it, either by design or mistake. We mean, basically, someone who does not care about the fate which his fellow living creatures fall victim to. He stands detached, a spectator, acting out by his indifference. John Donne's theorem that no man is an island, but giving that theorem a twist, that which is a mental and a moral island is not a man. The great change growing across our world these days is probably the momentum of the living toward reification, and at the same time a reciprocal entry into animation by the mechanical. We hold now no pure categories of the living versus the non-living. This is going to be our paradigm. My character Hoppy, in Dr. Blood Money, who is a sort of human football within a maze of servo assists. Part of that entity is organic, but all of it is alive. Part came from a womb, all lives, and within the same universe. I am talking about our real world, and not the world of fiction. When I say, one day we will have millions of hybrid entities which have a foot in both worlds at once. To define them as man versus machine will give us verbal puzzle games to play with. What is and will be a real concern is, does the composite entity, of which Palmer Eldritch is a good example, among my characters, does he behave in a human way? Many of my stories contain purely mechanical systems which display kindness, taxicabs, for instance. Or the little rolling carts at the end of Now Wait for Last Year which that poor defective human builds. Man or human being are terms which we must understand correctly and apply. But they apply not to origin or to any ontology but to a way of being in the world. If a mechanical construct halts in its customary operation to lend you assistance, then you will posit to it, gratefully, a humanity which no analysis of its transistors and relay systems can elucidate. A scientist, tracing the wiring circuits of that machine to locate its humanness, would be like our own earnest scientists who tried in vain to locate the soul in man. And, not being able to find a specific organ located at a specific spot, opted to decline to admit that we have souls. As soul is to man, man is to machine, it is the added dimension, in terms of functional hierarchy. As one of us acts godlike, gives his cloak to a stranger. A machine acts human when it pauses in its programmed cycle to defer to it by reason of a decision. But still, we must realize that the universe, although kind to us in its entirety, it must like and accept us, or we would not be here, as Abraham Maslow says, otherwise nature would have executed us long ago. Does contain grinning evil masks which loom out of the fog of confusion at us, and it may slay us for its own gain. We must be careful, however, of confusing a mask, any mask, with the reality beneath. Think of the war mask which Pericles placed over his features. You would behold a frozen visage, the grimness of war, without compassion, no genuine human face or person to whom you could appeal. And this was of course the intention. Suppose you did not even realize it was a mask. Suppose you believed, as Pericles approached you in the fog and half-darkness of early morning, that this was his authentic countenance. Now, this is almost exactly how I described Palmer Eldritch in my novel about him, so much like the war masks of the Attic Greeks that the resemblance cannot be accidental. Is, then, the hollow eye slot, the mechanical metal arm and hand, the stainless steel teeth, which are the dread stigmata of evil? Is this not, this which I myself first saw in the overhead sky at noon one day back in 1963? A description, a vision, of a war mask and metal armor, a god of battle. The god of wrath who was angry with me. But under the anger, under the metal and helmet, there is, as with Pericles, the face of a man. A kind and loving man. My theme for years in my writing has been, the devil has a metal face. Perhaps this should be amended now. What I glimpsed and then wrote about was in fact not a face, it was a mask over a face. And the true face is the reverse of the mask. Of course it would be. You do not place fierce cold metal over fierce cold metal. You place it over soft flesh, as the harmless moth adorns itself artfully to terrorize others with oshi. This is a defensive measure, and if it works, the predator returns to his lair grumbling, I saw the most frightening creature in the sky, wild grimaces and flappings, stingers and poisons. His kin are impressed. The magic works. I had supposed that only bad people wore frightening masks. But you can see now that I fell for the magic of the mask, its dreadful frightening magic, its illusion. I brought the deception and fled. I wish now to apologize for preaching that deception to you as something genuine. I've had you all sitting around the campfire with our eyes wide with alarm as I tell tales of the hideous monsters I encountered. My voyage of discovery ended in terrifying visions which I dutifully carried home with me as I fled back to safety. Safety from what? From something which, when the need was gone for concealment, smiled and revealed its harmlessness.